In today's video, Barbara opens a hatch. I say project.
Probably the biggest project. Projects.
And Dolce needs some cuddling.
Hello, it is so good to see you again. This video is about our plans for the next year. We talk in detail about all the big upcoming projects and how we will address smaller issues like the sinking, our tiny rust problem, or the constant fear of electrocution because of our ancient electrical system.
Hi, we are Daniel and Barbara. The last years we spent sail racing against the best sailors in the world. But we always had the dream to live on a traditional ship and sail the ocean. So in 2021 we bought a huge 82 feet ship in need of a serious refit. And a lot of people called us totally insane. However, we want to restore her and convert her back into the beautiful sailing ship she once was. And now let's get started with the video.
On the one hand, we have the vision. That is to convert her back into the sailing ship she once was. For that we want to lower the quarterdeck, we want to lower the wheelhouse, and we want to put a new seaworthy interior into her. But a project like that, or a vision like that, only can be achieved if broken down into small steps. And that's what we consider under the projects. And this video shall be about the projects we want to do during the next year or so. The main goal of this year's project is to give us time to achieve the vision. So the first thing is we want to conserve the hull inside and out. That tackles the rust problem and also the sinking problem, because it's much better if the water stays outside of the hull and not inside. Just to give you a rough idea about the time frame, we hope we can achieve the vision within 5 to 10 years. So we are in for a long project. But this video is about the projects we want to do within the next year. We think it's very important that the ship always has a purpose. The purpose is to sail, and in our case to be our home. So we are in for a floating refit, and we do not want the ship on the hard for an extended period of time.
While I was philosophizing about visions and projects and using the word project quite too often, Barbara is in the wheelhouse and wants to show you something.
Wait a second, I want to show you something. This is our hull thickness report. The numbers represent the thickness of the steel at the measuring points. And overall they look really good. We have a lot of numbers over 80 like here or here, and most of them are in between 6 and 8 millimeters. And we have some measurements that are below the 6 millimeters like here or also here. And there is one measurement that is quite low, that's that one here with 4.4 millimeters, but it is still enough steel because the minimum would be 3.6 millimeters. And I will show you that spot later on inside of the hull. Then we have these marks here. They represent a place where a plate is welded over the hull because it already was too thin, and these little stars here are rivets that were leaking. So there are quite a lot of them, and it is really likely that we have again some leaking rivets, and that's probably the reason why we have so much water inside of our hull. But overall this hull report looks really decent.
And now back to the philosophizing.
The first and probably the most important project is the conservation of the hull, because that gives us the time for all other projects. So we think it's a good starting point to start the project right there, because every millimeter steel that is lost, it's lost and gone forever. We are not too concerned about the hull thickness itself, because we have the thickness report of the CVO, but we haven't hauled out the boat when we bought it, so we are quite interested in how the boat looks at the bottom. So that's one thing why we want to have the boat lifted out quite soon. And it's also a great opportunity to have the hull done from the outside by the yard, because that's one thing less to worry. The idea is to have it done properly so that we only have to do it once. That means the whole hull sandblasted and completely recoated. That also means we can pick any color we like. So that's your chance to tell us what you think. So just leave a comment down below.
Just to be clear, we won't paint the boat pink. And now let's have a look what we actually mean with small rust problem.
Here, a bit of the furniture is already removed, so we can see the hull, and that's one of the spots where it looks really good. There still is the original coating and everything looks fine and no rust at all. And here is the spot with just 4.4 millimeters I showed you before in the thickness report. There was a tank built in right here, and underneath it started to rot and all the coating is gone, so it is really horrible and really rusty.
And now let's hear what we are going to do about it.
We want to do the inside of the hull by ourselves, and we have planned to do that in 4 steps. The first one is to strip the interior, the second one is to blast the hull down to bare steel, the third one is to recoat everything, and the fourth one is to put insulation inside. Well, we are not too sure how to do all these things, well, maybe except of the stripping of the interior, because that one is straightforward, so any recommendations are very much appreciated. We were quite surprised that so many of you like the interior how it is now. But first, in reality it looks much worse than in the video, we thought the same thing. And second, we have no idea how the hull looks behind the interior. So if we want to get a better idea how it looks, we have to strip the interior anyway. So the first big step is to get rid of the old interior. But the ship is also our home. So if we just rip out everything, then we have no place to sleep in, and that's obviously not good. So we have to do it compartment after compartment and have to make sure that we have at least one compartment to live in. The second step is to blast the hull down to bare steel. And there are basically 3 or at least 3 methods: sandblasting, hydroblasting and laser blasting. Laser blasting is a real thing, not a thing out of Star Wars. And we're not settled on one of these methods yet, but we have a slight tendency towards sandblasting. The third step is a little bit tricky because it's hard to get information. There seems to be a gold standard, which is to hot sink spray the hull, also known as flame spraying or arc spraying. But then there is also epoxy primers, which also seems to do a great job, so we are not too sure which method to choose. The last step is to isolate the hull, and that one would immensely improve the living quality aboard our ship. We have a strong tendency towards spray foam isolation, but we also have a riveted hull, and we are not too sure if that works, if spray foam isolation works in a riveted hull. And there are also other really good options, so we have to do a little bit more research on that one.
So some really big jobs ahead of us. But more important, have you seen this big box in the wheelhouse?
You may have wondered what's inside this huge box, so let's start the unboxing. Our new M-Class shop vac. I think we will really need it for the next video.
We are not as professional with unboxing as Sail Life yet. But I hope for the very first time it wasn't too bad. Back to the talking.
Also, the restoration of the hull is the main project for this year. There are also some very interesting smaller projects we want to do. For example, we want to update the heating system and we want to update also the electric system. I have to tell you, the last winter was pretty cold because we only have 2 solid fuel stoves and they only hold the heat up to 4 or 5 hours. So you have to wake up in the night at 4 a.m. and restock the fire. So for this winter we have to come up with an idea to keep us warm during the night. So we're thinking about adding a reflex stove, at least for the time of the project. But we are also thinking about connecting the cooling system of the generator with the heating system, because then if we need electricity we also have it warm. And that sounds like an awesome idea if you ask me. The next smaller but also very important task is to update the electric system. Because first of all, we have no possibility to connect with shore power for various reasons. Then it's not really safe, and also it only kind of works when the sun is shining. So in the winter we had to run a small Honda generator for most of the day just to give us some sort of electricity. So we really need to update that to give us some sort of comfort during the winter.
So you see, living on a floating building site is not just beer and skittles. And during the last weeks we had some bunny troubles on top of it. You may have wondered why we posted no video for 2 weeks. And we are really sorry for that. We are used to stressful weeks, but the last weeks were the most challenging of our entire life. Dolce had some problems with her teeth, and we desperately tried to find a vet that could help her. After visiting 2 specialists in the Netherlands, we eventually found a real one in Germany. The little girl had a serious surgery on the very next day, and it wasn't sure if she makes it. If you want to cheer us and Dolce up, then please leave a like. But now let's see how the problems are going. Hippity hoppity.
Hi Dolce. And here we have our small little problem. Dolce is recovering really well. She's now eating completely on her own and she really loves it, but there's still a lot of medicine she needs and we have to clean the wound. And next Monday we have to go to the vet again, which means another completely day in the car. So there's still a lot of time we need to spend to care for her. But the most important thing is that she's finally recovering and will be fine again.
And now back to problems for future me.
Probably the biggest project, and that one is really tough to cover on camera, is research. We have to research the right methods, we have to research the right tools, we have to research the amount of time it will take to do the jobs, and also how much it will cost. So on a project like that, you only have one chance to do it right, because the projects are quite expensive. So if you ask yourself why those guys don't start with the projects, well, we have to do the research first, because then we can do it right.
After we already revealed the mystery of the huge box, here's another reveal.
The last thing I want to show you is what's underneath our secret hatch. So down here we have the old crew quarters, so not the engine room and not our steering gear.
So we already talked about conserving the hull inside and out, improving the electrics, upgrade the heating system, rescuing bunnies, doing a little bit of research and editing videos. And if that isn't enough for 1 year,
and then there are hundreds and hundreds of smaller projects, like replacing the drive belt of the generator, cleaning the engine, oil changes, scooping out the lovely grease in the bilge compartments, cleaning, then there is cleaning. Have I mentioned cleaning? So we're definitely busy for quite some time.
And that's it for this video. We will start with all these interesting projects quite soon, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching and goodbye.